So a little bit of a video about the mysterious disappearance of Providence's kittens. Now, it's been 48 hours and there's been no sign of them. When Providence moved her litter up into the dray, I think for about 4 or 5 days maybe they were there, and they were becoming more and more confident. They were going further in the tree, and they were playing and jumping around and all that sort of stuff, and it's wonderful. And I was just waiting for Providence to bring them down to introduce them to the food source. But that unfortunately never happened. Now, what I think happened is this, people. What I know about squirrels so far is that they are fiercely territorial and protective about their food source. Now, whenever another squirrel comes around me, and of course they all know me now, they come very, very close. Some will take nuts out of my hand. And Providence is sitting in my hand and she's eating her food. And then she starts going, you know, they do this teeth chattering thing. And so she starts doing her teeth chattering, and then they've got this, you know, this sort of like grunting of disapproval. And then the ones that are coming, they do the same. And sometimes Providence will just go, oh fuck it, this bitch is taking the piss. Because there's one female that's really friendly with me. And so she'll jump down and go and kick her ass. But, you know, there's nothing serious that ever takes place. And so within a second after Providence chasing one away, then she's back again. And so they're kind of like, you know, learn to live with each other. But when Providence was with her young, when they were very young, she was fiercely protective and very aggressive with me. If I tried to touch her or pet her, you know, she'd have her claws on me, and sometimes she'd put her teeth on me like this. It's kind of like, she was just very, very hyper tense. And when she chased the other squirrels, she would grab hold of them and they'd be squealing, and so she meant it. And she always had the edge, because it's not because like she may be stronger or tougher or whatever, but she's got more of a purpose, you see. She's protecting her young, she's protecting her patch, she's protecting her property. I'm her property. And Providence, often, she'll run around my neck and she'll be looking around, and her teeth will be chattering, and then she'll start making her grunting noises, and she's doing all this tail wagging stuff to tell the others, just stay away. So, having watched lots of nature programs in my life, I've seen how animals get rid of their offspring. When the time is right, they've got to cut them loose. Because you can't have animals around with the same genetics, because it just doesn't work well when animals with the same genetics copulate. We all know that we get these mutations. And so whenever you watch a pride of lions, whenever the young ones are starting to get a little bit, you know, adult, maybe coming up to when they may be beginning to copulate, the mother or father will kick their asses and send them away. And sometimes it takes a lot, and they have to get their asses kicked quite brutally sometimes. You look at it, you think, hang on, that's a bit, you know, that's serious. But they have to do this to get them away, so they go and mingle in with other tribes. Now, I've seen a video with deer, a mother deer, a doe, a female deer. A doe will take her young ones out into the forest, and it will be a new area whereby they won't know how they got there, how to get back. And the mother will distance herself more and more and more. She'll hide behind trees, and then all of a sudden she's gone. She'll do it. That's how it has to happen. Now it happens like this with lots of animals. And so I think what Providence did, she led them away. She maybe led them away to a few gardens away or something like that. And then she left them. And so there hasn't been any young ones in the garden. So I'm assuming that they've not found the way back. And if they did find the way back, then they know where their original home was. And so they might want to take up residence in that. You know, I'm learning about the life of squirrels, people. And, you know, the romantic side of things was that Providence would introduce them to me, and they'd all be eating out my hand, and we were one big happy family. But nature doesn't work like that, because they couldn't stay around. They had to go their own way. Now, when I was reading the psychiatrist Carl Jung, he spoke of when he used to travel to Africa, and he was spending time with the tribes people because he wanted to learn about all their mythology and their psychology, their sociology, and all those sorts of wonderful things. And what he learned when he was there was that they have this thing called totem. And you know, you've heard of totem poles in North America. Well, totem is something which is known all over the world. And on these totem poles in America, with the North American Indians, there will be different iconography. There will be crocodiles and lions and hyenas and all these different sorts of things. Not in North America. What would there be? There'd be coyote, there'd be buffalo, there'd be wolves, bears. There'd be those sort of things. And so all these depictions would be on the totem pole. And what the tribes people would do when they had offspring, the offspring would take on the name of the tribe, which would have one of these totems, like crocodile, bear, or you know, hyena, or whatever, coyote. Their last name, their tribe name, would be one of those things. Why? So nobody could ever confuse each other with a member of the same tribe, because it was very, very important that they never copulated with the same tribe. So, of course, they would have to marry somebody from another tribe with another totem as a name to ensure that this crossbreeding between siblings and family members could never happen. So we can see that from a very early stage in human development, they knew about this. They knew about the mutations and the deformities and things like that which would happen if you kept this in the family. Now, incidentally, when we look into Egyptology and we look into Tutankhamun and Nefertiti, who was reputedly supposed to have been Tutankhamun's mother, they had very, very broad hips. And Tutankhamun had broad hips like a woman, apparently. And what they're saying is that this is some sort of a genetic interbreeding thing, because they kept breeding to keep the blood of the pharaohs within themselves, because they didn't realise at those stages thousands of years ago, you know, about this stuff. And so Tutankhamun had a body like a woman, and he only lived to be about, was it 14 years old, or was it even 9? I can't remember now, but very young before he died. And no doubt attributed to this interbreeding that they had going on. And the father of Tutankhamun, Akhenaten, I think it was Akhenaten, Nefertiti, who gave birth to, you can listen to the genealogy and this Egyptology stuff, it's fascinating. So, Yes, I think that's what's happened. Providence has done what all mother squirrels do. She left them around the tree. She took them to a new environment whereby they could do this. They could learn about jumping. They could, run around and play and get stronger and get more confident. And then, within no time at all, she took them away. But the thing is I have seen mother squirrels with young squirrels every bit as big as the ones that Providence had, maybe even a little bit bigger, and they were following her around. And I've listened to YouTube videos saying that mother will show them the ropes for 2 or 3 weeks before they leave. Now, it never said before she kicks their ass, before she takes them far away and abandons them, or anything like this, because there's not that much study. So I think in time, maybe, I will start to learn things about squirrels that is not really readily known outside of people who've bred them and observed them for many years. So I'm hoping that I see them again, but I'm pretty sure now that I've lost whatever little bond I had with them. They recognise my voice. They would recognise my scent because I put bedding into their nest, having rubbed it all over my face, under my arms and over my body for several days, having come back from the gym and things like that. So they would be aware of my scent, and they wouldn't forget that. They wouldn't forget the voice, and they've seen Providence acquainted with me on enough occasions for them to know that I'm not a threat, at least to her. So whether they come back in these cold winter months, which they very well may do, I'm hoping that they do, but I won't know unless it's very, very soon, because they'll be too big for me to recognise. So that's Providence update. And my romanticism aside, I have to accept the stark reality of that's how it is. It's how it is for very important reasons, and nature doesn't have any compassion for my emotional state, unfortunately. But it seems like Providence is going to be around because she's built her new home, and she was continually refurbishing it, taking new leaves, even up until the last time I saw Providence with the young ones. And so she was working on her house, but maybe she was working on her house with no mind for her young ones being a part of it. And so I'm wondering whether Providence will be back in her beautiful, cosy, warm, quilted and lined homes, probably in the heart of winter. Maybe if we have torrential rain where her homes start to get damp, cold, and she gets wet, she knows where to go. And so hopefully she's going to stick around. And if she does, then it's inevitable that next year she'll have another brood. And so I'll get the joy of watching them closer again. And what I'm going to do is next year I'm going to get one of these little cameras, and I'm going to drill a hole in the top of the 2 boxes so I can watch what goes on throughout the whole giving birth and rearing, so that will be beautiful. And so that's just an update on that, people. So about 4:30 p.m. now, making my way to the gym in this dismal squirrel. Now, you can see that one, right? It's a big one. don't know what sort of a call that was. Wouldn't have been a mating call, but it was certainly not a warning call. So there's still lots to learn, and it's fascinating. And what I've noticed about Providence is that, she doesn't mind me having a little bit of a touch. The squirrels are not that keen, to be fair. Most certainly they'll never like being touched when they're eating, because if I started to touch them when Providence is eating, she'll turn around as if to say, "Who the fuck's that?" Because eating food is a very important business, and it's not to be fucked with. And the only people, of course, the only things that's ever going to fuck with them in the wild is other squirrels trying to take the food away from them. So they've got this natural inbuilt instinct that they will not be touched when they're eating food. But by the time she's been satiated and she hangs around, which she sometimes does, then I can have a little bit of a play with her, and I'll try to fight with her, but she's no longer of the fighting age. When she was younger, she used to run around my body, and I'll go, "Where is she? Where is she? I'm gonna get her! I'm gonna get her!" And she'll have a wrestle with my hand. But she doesn't do that anymore. Once she stayed for 30 seconds on my shoulder or something, and she's had a sniff at my nose, and sometimes if she's being really affectionate, she'll just bite the end of the nose. And I've seen her do that with her babies. I've seen her when she's greeting the babies, she'll put her mouth over the end of the nose, and so it's some sort of greeting, and so it's nice when she does that. But invariably she'll just sniff, and invariably when she's meeting her young ones, she'll just touch noses and sniff like that. And that's the greeting, isn't it? And as the days get colder, then there's going to be a whole bunch of activity in that garden, because already now there's 20 white pigeons, there's a dozen jackdaws who absolutely love the monkey nuts, and there's a dozen squirrels that know that there's a very, very regular food source going on. So lots of videos to come on that, people. And it's fascinating watching them interact. The squirrels and all the birds, there's no problem at all. No problem with other birds, and no problem with squirrels with other birds, and all that. But of course, as soon as a cat makes its presence known, then they've all got their individuated ways of letting the others know that the cat's about. And so that's also very interesting to learn about that. Anyway, it's just weather. It's just weather, people. It's a state of mind. You see, if you are happy, satiated, content, and vital, then weather doesn't have any effect upon you. Of course, it doesn't stop us not favouring brighter, clearer weather, but it doesn't bring us into this seasonal affective disorder, It doesn't bring us down. But there is something. Of course, a bright sunny day is a bright sunny day. And when your face is kissed by the sun, it's a beautiful thing. But when we have, the odd day or week like this, it's no big deal, and it doesn't play on our minds and hearts, like it does with people who are subject to depression. As soon as the weather gets like this, they don't have a good time. My old man was like that. He always had some variety of depression hanging around, and it would be certainly increased during the winter months, the dark nights, where walking out in the natural environment wasn't particularly pleasant, and you couldn't really get any respite away from the dullness, you know, because when you're walking in the heart of winter, well, it's just dullness, isn't it? And there's nothing too exciting, unless of course we have snow or we have frost. I love all the different sorts of frosty days, how the frost is glistening, and it's like Jack Frost has been around, and you know, he's been casting his frost here, there and everywhere, and it's an amazing thing to watch the natural world and to see that. But you know, these sort of days, as soon as the leaves have all fallen and it's just gone brown and sedentary, well, we can only but rejoice about the oncoming springtime, can't we?